saw something you pinned and it said, "Stop doing shit you hate."
I did something I hated for 11 years. I was really good at it. I started filming my own show and the show was just not doing well. I didn't know what I was doing. I don't know, it was 3 months into the business. I woke up from a dream and I had this vision for this huge facility. I decided to pick up a camera with absolutely zero experience and I built the #1 content studio in the entire country. When you can tell that story to people, they're like, oh shit, I want to be a part of it.
Adam with Ruckus here today. Super pumped up. My first time in your studio with Andrew, and we're talking about a really big subject. I was on your Instagram and saw something you pinned and it said, "Stop doing shit you hate." And I was like, wow, that's definitely disruptor. So tell me a little bit about how you got here and what's the move all about.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me in my own studio.
Thanks for having Brand Ruckus on. You're definitely doing big things, so it's an honor to interview you today.
Essentially, it came from the root of I did something that I hated for 11 years, which was mortgages. I never loved it. I hated it. I used to wake up and hate it. The issue was it was my golden handcuffs because I was so good at it and I made so much money doing it. So it was like, maybe I'm supposed to do this because I'm good at it. I'm respected for it. People around the community know me for it. And then like, where else am I going to go besides to 10, 12 years of school to become a doctor to make what I'm making doing mortgages? It's just like, maybe this is what I'm supposed to do. And so I wanted to leave for a decade and I did. And it wasn't until this took off that I finally jumped ship.
Amazing.
No.
So how many mortgages did you do? I think it was like,
I mean, from a volume standpoint, I did over $1 billion. I did about 1.1 billion. Wow. I can't tell you the number of loans that was because it was to the tune of thousands.
That's amazing. And how did you decide that you wanted to get behind the camera, develop a podcast, and then obviously develop one of the hottest studios in all of Miami right now, The Move? I mean, everyone's talking about The Move. I mean, just a quick few names that I saw that have been on here. You've got Shaq, you've got Udonis Haslem, you've got Gary V. I mean, everyone's been in the studio recording. Super cool vibe. Tell me a little bit more about that.
This started again off the backbone of like doing something that I hated for so long. I was like, well, what do I want to do? I've always wanted to kind of like be on camera and have a podcast. And I started filming my own show and the show was just not doing well. I didn't know what I was doing. Like, I'm spending a fortune with editors and copywriters and post-production and all this stuff, and it wasn't going anywhere. And I was like, this is unaffordable. But at this point in time, I had already built a whole studio in my apartment. I really enjoyed the process of like putting it together, buying the cameras, figuring it out, like wiring everything. And for the first time, I realized I could work for a half a day doing mortgages and it felt like a week. Whereas I could do 8 hours of like rigging out my studio and it felt like I was there for 30 minutes. And I was like, oh wow, what's the difference? I'm enjoying this. And so that's where it happened. And I just kept doing more of what I enjoyed to the point where like it became fruitful and I didn't have to do the things that I hated anymore. Ultimately, I started my show. It was a failure, essentially. And then I was like, well, what can I do with all this equipment? And I pivoted. And so I made a story on Instagram. I'm like, hey guys, my studio is available for rent. You've seen me post it. And like, if you want it, it's available. And so it was almost immediate. Like within 48 hours, we had our first client. And it was Bowie Sperber and Wes Watson.
Huge.
And they were interviewing for the Clever Investor Show.
Okay, yeah, I think I saw Wes on here and he's definitely a disruptor. Another loaded topic, right? Because we're kind of like a boutique marketing agency.
Yeah.
Talking about marketing agencies being full of shit. Like, what are your thoughts on that? It seems like you're kind of running a mini agency here and doing really big things as far as the future goes. What is your insight on just marketing in general and agencies?
Sure. So I've never, not once, had a good experience with an agency leading up to what we're doing now. And I think that was one of the reasons why we became so good at doing what we did. When I first started my podcast, I was working with an agent. I worked with 3 different agencies to try to produce a show. They were doing the clipping. They were doing, at one point, the posting. I was working with a social media agency. And I felt like I was paying these people. And I was just like one of 100 or 1,000 clients. And I never got the time of day. And I was like, at one point I was spending 10 grand a month with this one agency.
Wow.
And I'm like, I can't get these people on the phone. This was actually a sales agency, so it was different. And I was like, I can't get anybody on the phone. We have 0 updates on how many leads are in, how many have been called, what is the drop off rate, what's the close rate. Like, we don't have any analytics or statistics into what's happening, but we're paying for this. And it was just like, I don't get a call until I put a stop on my credit card. Right. And then the process doesn't go through. And now I get a call that day. Hey, what's up? How is everything? You just want to follow up on the payment. I'm like, payment? I haven't heard from you in 2 weeks, So So this was my experience with agencies. It was horrible with the marketing agency, the social media agency, and the sales agency. And so after 3 experiences, I was like, this sucks. I'm just going to do it myself. And so it was in the process of building these small micro teams that we almost became an in-house agency. And then we were at one point like, we don't even want to do this for other people because we're so effective at doing it for ourselves. And so we started only taking on certain clients. Love it. Because I didn't want them to have the same experience that we had, which is where you're working with 50 and nobody gets a ton a day.
Brilliant strategy. So essentially you brought everything in-house.
Yeah.
Very hands-on. You're kind of a roll up your sleeve guy.
Yeah.
We met on a Saturday. You were here. You're touring me around the studio. I'm like, okay, this guy is super cool. And I think with us, with Brain Ruckus, we are always trying to just be hands-on and really help people. And I think that's where there's definitely a place in the market for a company like The Move, who is very hands-on, who's entrepreneurial, because right, we're both entrepreneurs, and that's kind of what attracted me to you. As you pivoted and you saw an opportunity in business and you developed The Move. I think we've kind of been the same way with Brand Ruckus, and just really trying to focus on clients' needs. And there's always going to be a market for that, for the guys that answer the phone that are one of the things that you and I have in common. You're working 12, 16-hour days. I love that about you. You're constantly available, whether it's text, WhatsApp, email. You always been very responsive. There's just definitely a place in the market today for people who are hustling and working and delivering for clients. So I really love that about you.
What's been your, you said you're servicing the client's needs, but what's that one need that when a client comes to you, you're like, oh, for sure, I got that?
Shopify stores, e-com. I've been doing e-com since I've been 20 years old, 49 now. So kind of talks a little about how old I am. But, I put a product on Yahoo, back in my early 20s and did over $1 million in sales within the first, year of putting that product online. So I've always been attracted to conversion and putting products online and trying to do, millions of dollars in sales, whatever we were selling. I just loved putting a widget online. And that's kind of how Brand Ruckus evolved, where we were, building and running our own stores, doing a lot of digital stuff, anything digital, anything online, I was just very attracted to. And I was always trying to figure out how to crack the code. Similar to what you did here, is you cracked the code, right? You created a great environment for people to come in, tell their stories, and get on camera. And I think cracking the code has been really, really important for us, and just finding what clients' needs are. And there's a huge market in the digital space out there, the people that really want to grow their brands and grow their business. So that's where I kind of feel like the opportunity is. And I think there's a lot of companies missing that, especially on the agency side. But love what you're doing. Talking a little bit more, so do you think that brands kind of need to become, or personal brands, whether it's, they kind of are evolving into doing their own media now, right? Because people have had so many issues, on that side of things. So a little bit of feedback on that, what struggles have you faced, doing everything that you're doing in-house, because you got a lot of people moving around here. What's the biggest challenge you got going on now?
Like from a business standpoint?
Yeah, from a business standpoint, because you're wearing a lot a hats.
Yeah, no,
that's not easy.
Yeah,
right?
I think from a personal standpoint, delegation has been challenging, and I think that goes to the overarching business issue, which is just finding good people. It's been so challenging to find people that want to work, and the issue is every business is really a tier down from ownership and leadership, right? So it's if you have, as an example, there's a gym that I go to, everybody, I don't care if it's the person mopping the floors to the manager, everyone's gossiping. Gossip. When you meet the owner, it all makes sense because that's who that person is, right? Okay. There's another place that I attend where it's a gym where he's everyone's just so inviting and warm, and they want to help. Hey, can I help you? And it's hey, you're kind of doing this wrong. Do you mind if I give you some guidance? When you meet the owner, there's a reason why, because he's like that. And so what I found is what's been challenging for me as a leader is I work 16 hours a day. I don't sleep. I sleep 3-4 hours a night. And what happens is I notice my employees, I can see it. They're fighting fatigue and burnout because they're seeing what I do, and they're almost they feel compelled to do it as well.
Right.
And that's not healthy. I don't live a healthy lifestyle. But I also
we look great.
Yeah.
Find out how you should.
But I also know that this is a burn phase where I got to get through the first 6 months of this build out, because I've been through 2 other studio builds. Okay. And I know that you just got to eat shit for 6 months and really grind.
Yes.
Get the right people in place, and then you could take a step back for a second.
Love it. Embrace the suck.
So if you have to eat shit and your relationship fails and things happen, I've been there, people aren't going to understand, and not everybody's going to be along for the ride with you, but they don't understand. It's very easy for an entrepreneur that's done it a few times to realize this is a period I got to eat for 3 to 9 months. And on the other side of this, we're going to be okay. Right. Now that's not guaranteed, but like 8 out of 10 times, as long as you work hard and you're in the right industry, like you're gonna get through and it's gonna be okay. Especially if you know how to delegate. But for the people in your lives like that don't understand that, a month might feel like a year. For 3 months it feels like it for an eternity. It's like they don't know that it's gonna end. So it's like this is gonna, in their mind, it's like, you know, when you're sick and you feel like the sickness is gonna last forever.
Yes.
And on the other end of it, you're like, oh, it was only 2 weeks. You know what I mean? But like when you're in it, you're like, this is my life.
And so many people give up. They're like, I think in that picture online where you see the little guy,
Yeah.
you know, that's you know, the right at goal. Yeah, he's right there and you know, pushing through. So
So I think my biggest challenge right now has been like, I want to find and I need to find employees that are just like, they care. Like they're easily trained, but they care. Like the biggest issue is if you find somebody that doesn't care, then it's just like they have no incentive to stay because money's not going to keep them. They're going to go somewhere else that pays them more. It's like they got to buy into the brand mission and vision, and more importantly, the vision of where you're headed, right? If you can sell your team on a compelling vision, then they're going to stick it out with you. Like even when times are tough, they're going to stick through it. And it's with your family in it. Like your girl will stick through, your wife, your kids, like everybody's on board. If you can say as a leader, hey, this is where we're headed. And as a family, we're going to eat ship for a little while, but I'm going to hold down the fort. I've got you guys. I'm giving you some security. This is where we're going to be in 3 months. Like, are you with me or not? And the ones that stick around are the ones that they're getting the exit, part of the exit fee.
yeah, Liam, that's true. Which is hard to. That I think as a leader, that's where it makes that's challenges. Well, we have to, you know, kind of lead people and raise them up to get there. So tell me a little bit about you're a fantastic storyteller, by the way. Talking more about marketing and founders, how important is the role of storytelling when you're developing a new brand, such as what you're doing here? And
It's imperative.
and how does that play a role in getting on camera and, you know, producing content? You know, stories are amazing, right? It connects viewers with kind of who we are, who we're about. So getting on camera is really important. But tell me a little bit about kind of where that plays a role in people who may want to record video in the future for themselves to grow their brand on oil.
I mean, it is literally imperative. There's nothing else that parallels like the importance of a good story. I mean, if you think back to like tales as old as time and all these, like our history was passed down through the ages through stories, right? So it's important. You remember kings because of the stories that were written about them. You remember the accomplishments of these leaders and people in the past because of the stories that were written about them, the stories that were told time and time again. And yeah, maybe the story changed over the course of time, but perhaps it even got better because people learned to tell it better, right? And so I think if you can tell a good story, you can bring people onto that vision, because sometimes stories aren't just about the past, but they're also about where we're headed. And if you can tell a compelling story, you know, that's how this whole business started. People decided to work with me over other people because I had a great story. I did something that aided for 11 years. I was really good at it. I decided to pick up a camera with absolutely zero experience, and I built the #1 content studio in the entire country. For the first year and a half, I was by myself. I had one employee, you know, he worked maybe 30, 40 hours a week, and it was like me by myself. I met all the clients. I was Diana. I was Elena. I was Bert, I was Danny, I was Forrest, I was everybody all at once. Wow. I had 6, 7 different hats, and it was just me, right? And I was such a terror, and I almost like had pride in that. Yeah, if I do it all, like it can't get messed up. People started being like, wow, I not only see where you've been, I'm encouraged by how you did this, and now I see where you're headed, because I would show them the overarching vision. I have a photo in my office that, I don't know, it was 3 months into the business. I woke up from a dream, and I had this vision for this huge facility. I actually hired an architect. I sent him my vision. I wrote it all on paper. I had the renderings for a 20,000 square foot building drawn out. I printed them out. I put them on my wall. And like when people walk through and they see this, they're like, wow, this is huge. I'm like, this is nothing. Like you should see like what's down the road, what's 6 months, 6 years down the road, right? When you can tell that story to people, they're like, oh shit, I want to be a part of it.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. And then for some of our viewers out there, right, I always say, like, when you're marketing a product or service or whatever it is, you know, it's so simple to tell the story. And I always say this is who, what, when, where, why, and how. It's just very basic. And I think so many founders, so many visionaries, you know, so many business owners just miss that message when it comes to marketing, right? And you've really nailed that, and I love that about what you guys are doing.
That's huge. Yeah, well, I mean, they say storytelling is story selling.
Yes.
Right. And so it's really like, and in the content, it's so important because you can do it effortlessly now. As an example, if I were to tell a story about what happened this morning, we had an NBA player, their producer called me out of the blue. He was like, hey, I got your number from UD. We have like an emergency situation, need somebody to come in and film today. It's literally in 20 minutes. They just have to redo some voiceovers and then they're out. So I'm like, yeah, no problem. I'll take care of them. They come in. I did it myself because we're short of tech today. And then on the way out, I give the guy a tour of the space. The producer calls me 15 minutes later and he's like, he loved the space so much, like we want to finish the rest of the season with you guys. So we're not going to film at the other spot anymore. We're going to come film with you guys. That story that I just explained was something that literally happened this morning, right? But when I tell you that story, even though I am telling you factual what happened this morning, as a consumer, you're going to hear that and be like, wow, authority, an NBA player,
yeah,
right? Came in last minute, which means he took care of them when he really needed something, right? Subconsciously, like, oh, they take care of their people, even though they're not on the calendar. His tech was short, so he did it himself, so they really care. And then it's like, oh, this other person decided to drop the other place they were with and film with them full time. So it's like, we've just hit multiple points in one story that now, if we were to tell that story through a video, it's like other people are subconsciously gonna be like, dude, these fucking people are awesome. Like, I'm gonna work with them instead of this other studio, all through one story that took 30 minutes to tell about one experience that happened this morning. So what I tell my team is like, as we tell the stories, like when we use Instagram stories, for instance, we have such an incredible retention rate on stories. Even on my personal stories, I may get 4,000 views on a reel, but I'll get 6,000 views on my story. And that's completely opposite of most people. Most people get 6,000 views on a little reel, right? 600 views on the story.
Exactly.
Because people we segment our stories in a way that tells us a real story.
Yes.
So we were like, oh, what happened next? Like, I want to see what's going on in the move because it's really cool. You love that. So if you could tell stories through your content, people just gravitate towards you and they want to be a part of what you're doing. They're actually going to want to work with you.
Excited. Moving towards a loaded subject, AI, right? Like I was watching, I think it was Fox News the other day, and they had some country artists on there, and they were, really outspoken about the fact that someone had created a top hit on country radio, right? That was created with AI. How do you see AI changing how creators and brands contribute to their products and also in your business? I mean, I know you guys are using it, right? What are your thoughts on that, and how is that improving, content just in general versus, authentic, real content like we're producing on camera today?
Yeah, well, I think it's twofold. I think number one, a lot of people are scared right now, especially if they're creators and they're like, there's faceless AI channels that are like making millions of dollars, like why don't I just do that? What's going to happen to the content scene with all these like robots and whatnot, right? So there's that one thing that I think the business owners aren't afraid of. I think it's more so the regular Joe Schmoes that are afraid of. The one thing that AI will never be able to replace is your personality. And they're never going to be able to replace your ability to connect with people. Right, because especially with these clipping softwares, is that they have no context. Right, so you can make 50 clips with AI and only one or two of them are decent because they don't have context for the conversations. We don't use AI to make our clips. We have an actual copywriter that listens to the podcast and they're like, oh, this would be a good part, because how is AI going to know if I take this 15 seconds from this part in the beginning of the timeline and I get another 5 seconds from the end and I put it in front of that, and then I take a 30-second from the center, I could piece this beautiful story together in a reel. And all of our reels get 40, 50,000 views because of that, right? Because we've clipped it in a way where it's like, AI's not gonna do that. They're gonna grab a random segment based off of the timestamps or based off of the copy. So AI is not there yet. I think it will be soon, but I think what it's done is it's made our job so much easier. There was an issue, a client came from another place. They had an audio issue from the studio that they were working with. So no problem, we'll throw it into AI. We put it into Adobe, fixed her audio, and send it back to her. It took us no more than 5 minutes. And that woman was so appreciative. She thought they was gonna have to refilm the whole thing. Amazing. And now she does all of her content with us, right? AI makes our job easier and is making content so much more accessible to everybody.
It's cool. I think, from a business standpoint, though, it just sometimes it can't execute the plan, right?
Correct.
So
yeah.
It's great at spitting out a marketing plan or, kind of how can we, get from point A to point B, but execution really makes a difference. And I think that comes in kind of what you're saying when it comes to putting together content. I can't listen to the content, find the hooks, find the best parts of it. I think it's going to be interesting to see kind of how this whole thing unfolds, right? But it's definitely been a great tool.
As an example, let's say an editor does make someone's job way easier. An editor used to have to sit through and edit 2-3 hours for one podcast. It would just take so much time to get through one pod. With an AI software such as like Adobe Autopod, you can chop up a full podcast in 5 minutes. Right. Okay, cool. Now, someone still has to go back through and listen to make sure, like, hey, do we need to cut this out, that, whatever, right? But the actual process of chopping from cam to cam and doing that saves hours of time. And then so, like, would we not be more efficient as a result of the software? There's so many people that are fearful of AI instead of leveraging it in order to make their business better.
Good stuff, man. So if you were launching a new brand from scratch today, what would be your first piece of content you create? Like, take me through the process of where would you start?
It would definitely have to be brand story.
Okay.
For sure.
So tell the story of the brand.
Yeah. There was a woman walking out when you walked in, and I was speaking to her, and she was like, "Hey, like, I don't even know where to start." And I'm like, "Well, what's your brand? Like, I need to know who you are and why they should care." And so I was like, "Well, you need to get clear on first is you need to get clear on who you are. Like, what's your brand?" Okay. And so she was like, "Well, this is the name I want." Okay, sick. So you got your name. That's cool. Why does anybody care? And then she's like, "Well, I don't know, you know." And I'm like, "So get clear on that first. Why do people care? And then get really clear on your target demographic." Now, why this is important, I tell everybody this if you're in brand. If I were to start today, which was your question, the first thing I would say is, who am I? What do I do? Who do I serve? Now, who do I serve is so important for what we do in the content game. The reason why, if I can get really clear on my target audience, I know exactly who they are. I know what they care about and what their pain points are. I'll now make a list of their top 10 pain points. I'll go to YouTube and I'll look up those pain points. I'll take the most viral titles off of those pain points and I'll turn those into the titles for my content. And I'll now rip 10 videos specifically on the pain points for my target demographic.
Love that.
Right? So I have an instant go to market right now for 10 YouTube videos specifically geared towards my audience, targeting their pain points using viral hooks that have already gone well on YouTube.
Okay. Love the why. I mean, that's big. So to get more, you got to give more. What do you think about giving back, right? Like I always say, you've got to, in order to, you know, that's a big thing that I'm about, is like really trying to help people, trying to give back. And I think that when we come out, which I just feel the energy from you is that, you know, when I first met you, you said, "Hey, you know, I can help you guys," right? Because it kind of shared with you a little bit of my vision with Brand Ruckus and Ruckus Disruptors, which is, you know, why we're here today. Tell me a little bit now, you know, because you're giving it all. Like, there's a lot of people out there. What's the encouragement that someone can take away from this, you know, to get started in business? And you know, why give more? Why work 16 hours a day?
It's got to get done.
Okay.
I mean, who else is going to do it? All right. I mean, people see like when things are done half-assed. Right. It's just not attractive. I don't want to go someplace and the show looks terrible and then it's like, well, I don't know, terrible, so I'm not gonna go there. I mean, I think it comes down to like, do you care? You know, if you care about something, and this goes for relationships, it goes for business, it goes for whatever, then you're gonna invest time into it. Right?
Yeah.
So how much do you care? Right? And so it's the same for like, if I were gonna be in a relationship right now and she's pulling out my time and like my time's all in the business, right? I clearly care about the business more than I do about the relationship if I'm not willing to dedicate or invest some form of time into it, right? So then it's like, what's going to give? And so I think right now, what I've learned is like what you give attention to grows. And it's not just with the social media. We're talking about, I have a men's group and we meet once a month. And I've noticed a direct correlation from when I invest time into that group, the business actually thrives as a result. And it's very interesting. I started that group the exact same month that I started the business. We started in my small apartment. The business also started in my small apartment. I didn't grow into the big unit because the business grew. That wasn't the case. I went to the larger apartment because I had 30 guys in my little tiny studio apartment and they were wall to wall. We couldn't fit in there anymore. So I went and got a bigger unit so I could hold more guys for my men's group. We got it to 50 guys and then the business grew. So then that wasn't enough because now at one point we had 65 guys in my apartment. I ended up getting another unit with my business partner out there. And guess what? The business grew into the second unit as well. Well, I loused an conference. We had 80 guys in our little unit. And I'm like, hey, we're going to have to use the big event space now. So the business is almost growing as like my group, the men's group that I give back to, is growing as well. And I've noticed when I don't invest time and attention into that, the business, it struggles as well because it's I don't know how they're correlated, but I feel like that's part of it. Like when we're giving to something that's bigger than ourselves, I think that we're blessed as a result of that.
Yes.
And like, if we're just all about the money and it's greed and it's me, it's just like people feel that and they don't want to work with you.
Right. I like it. I heard Gary Vee say once, you, me, right? Great talking with you today, man. Thank you for the opportunity to interview you. I think you're doing just amazing things. Exciting future together. The Move and Brand Ruckus, I think, would be doing a lot of filming here, a lot of content. And we really appreciate you allowing us to share your story and to be a part of what you're doing here at the Move. So sure. Thanks a lot, man.
Appreciate the matter, brother. Thank you.
Okay.